Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is a Christmas in July video. I have put together 10 decoupage themed Christmas DIYs. These are all so easy and end up so beautiful. You guys are going to love these. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. If you do like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up, but let's go make some DIYs. I'm taking this cutting board sign from Dollar Tree. I love that they have these a lot more now because they're so fun to give makeovers to. So I'm just going to tear off the surface that is there. And this one was already peeling off pretty good, but you can see I just rip off anything that I can. And then I'm spraying some water on here. I just let that sit for a few seconds and then I just use my putty knife to be able to scrape that off. It may take you a couple times of spraying this down and scraping in sections, but it does come off fairly easy and leave you with a very clean surface. And then I'm just going to paint the base color of whatever I want my cutting board to be. In this case, I'm putting a graphic on the cutting board, so I wanted a white background so it would really make that graphic pop. There are several different ways that you can add graphics to things. This particular method I love because I feel like most of us have a printer, and I just use a regular inkjet printer. This is just a piece of copy paper, just normal copy paper that you have, or printer paper, and just a gift wrap sheet of tissue paper. And all I did was just cut that tissue paper to be about an inch wider than my paper all the way around, so that way I can fold the tissue paper over my copy paper, and then you just want to tape it down. We're going to feed this through our printer, and so I need all of my edges, my raw edges of tissue paper, taped down so nothing gets caught up or hung up in the printer and rips. Now, just fair warning, if you've never tried this before and you go to try it and it totally is a disaster your first time, it happens to everyone. Give it a try. It's very easy, but you do just want to make sure the biggest trick is to tape down all the areas of the tissue paper, so that way when you feed this through, it's not going to snag at all. I feel like that's probably the biggest issue that I hear from people. But really, this is a simple process. You just want to make sure that when you feed this through your printer, it's printing on the side that the tissue paper is on. And I'm just showing you the edge is all taped there. I'll show you, you can even use painter's tape to do it with, and it works beautifully. Now, when I did try to place the graphic on my cutting board, I realized there was a little bit of negative space, and so I thought I would paint a ticking stripe at the bottom. So I just taped out a little bit of area, and with a stencil brush, just went over that with some red paint. It's what matched my graphic that I'm using, and I thought that added a little bit more visual interest onto the bottom to have those beautiful little stripes there. So here is the image after I have printed it out on the tissue paper. You can see how beautiful. I'll leave a link to this image. It's from one of my most favorite Etsy stores to get graphics from, so I'll leave a link to them down in my description box. But I just cut out all of the edges, being careful not to cut the graphic at all, and just remove it from the copy paper. Now, since I'm going to be using some Mod Podge and the decoupage process to put this on my cutting board, I don't want a harsh line along the edges. I want a natural edge. So in order to achieve that, I just take a paintbrush and some water and go along the edge around the design. You want to make sure that you leave a buffer between where the water is going to be and your design, because that water does seep in really good to that tissue paper. And then you just tear out your edges to give that natural edge. Now, I just covered the entire surface of my cutting board with some Mod Podge. I like to use the matte Mod Podge when I'm doing this process here, so you don't have like a big shine to it. But if you like the shine, then use the gloss Mod Podge. Now I'm using some saran wrap or cling wrap here to pounce the design from the middle out. And you can see that if I have any wrinkles or anything, I just lift up that tissue paper and I can straighten that out. Now, if you go to lift your tissue paper and you find that you're going to have a problem or it's going to tear, you're just going to embrace it. You're just going to go with it, place it down and move forward. It's going to have a rustic look anyway, so it's going to be just fine. Now, I'm also taking a little bit of Mod Podge and going underneath each of my edges and then on top of my edges to seal them all to make sure that they're not going to come up. I just want to make sure that they have a really good bond with the cutting board, and that way you're not going to have the image start to come up at all. And then you can use some clear coat spray, or in this case, I'm just putting some Mod Podge over to protect that design and the tissue paper. I know a lot of you have a lot of different methods of decoupage that you do. So if you have a different technique that works great for you, definitely try that with this sign and see if it works for you. Now I'm just going to take some of this really thick twine from Walmart, is where I purchased this, down their crafting aisle, and I'm just going to wrap it around 5 or 6 times around the top of the cutting board, or the neck of the cutting board there. I thought this really added a nice like homespun touch to it. It makes it look really warm. It adds some visual interest. And I really love the color of the twine, since I did kind of a gingerbread type print on it. The twine color kind of ties that in, I feel like, and it looks really good on there. So I just glued it onto the back there, just very subtly, so that way, and just trimmed it so it looks very smooth and clean on the back. But I just really think that adds quite a really nice touch to it. What do you guys think? Do you guys like the twine on it? Now I just took some additional twine and I looped that through the top there. As you can see, I felt like this really just needed something that you could hang this with. And by tying it on in this particular way, if you were to hang it off of one of your cute little cutting board bars or something, you would be able to have it hang flat so the graphic would show. But how cute would this be hung with a bunch of traditional charcuterie or cutting boards and have that beautiful Christmas design on there? I go around the edge and I'm just sanding the edge. This is optional, but I do feel like when you paint the cutting board, you will want to do this because you want to clean up if any paint went over the edges or anything, to give it a nice professional look. So that is why I do this. So how crazy you get with your distressing on there is totally up to you. But overall, I think this turns out beautiful. I feel like it looks just like something you would find in Mrs. Claus's kitchen, maybe. I love how this looks, and I think it's going to be a great addition for Christmas decor in my kitchen. What do you guys think of this one? I really love the look of vintage paper ornaments. So I cut all of these designs out with my cutting machine. If you have a die cut, you could use that. They sell shapes like this at the craft store in the scrapbook section that you could get. You could even cut them by hand. Whatever you would like. You don't even have to necessarily do this part. I just love the trim and the edge that this adds to the ornament. So I want them to look really distressed and really aged. So I'm just wrinkling all of the paper, putting lots of crinkles in there. And then you could do a couple of things to distress and age these. You could put them in some tea or coffee to dye them that way. I have these distressing inks that I picked up at JoAnns years ago. They do sell them at Hobby Lobby, I've seen. You can get them on Amazon. But I'm just rubbing the ink pad directly onto my background here, onto these little cutout shapes. And then I'm using a darker color that will help all of those little wrinkles and crinkles pop, so it really hits home that aged vintage look. And I just go over front and back and make sure that everything is really covered good. Now I'm taking some water, just my mister bottle, and I'm spraying that all over to give an even different element of the aged look to them. So you can see how they look there. It makes that ink run a little bit. It makes little water spots appear. It really makes it look like these have just been sitting in the attic for decades upon decades, and that's exactly what I'm going for. The hardest part of this whole project is finding the graphics that you want to use. Now, I searched and searched through the Graphics Fairy's website, which she has amazing graphics. So I'll leave the link to her website down in my description box. I created one of these using a couple of different images and some things in Canva that I did. So I can leave a link to that if you want to print that out. And some of them did come from Canva. I just printed a bunch of different images. You could easily use Christmas cards, old postcards that you picked up like at the thrift or vintage antique store, anything like that you would like to use. But it is just very easy to hop online and look for some vintage graphics and just do it that way. So I'm just using my trusty Elmer school glue. This is just the purple glue stick on the back. I will lay that down and center it on each of the designs, and then I'm just going over with my brayer to make sure that I get those pieces bonded together really well. Now I'm going to take some Mod Podge and put this over. This is going to seal and coat these. You do want to make sure that your ink is completely dry. I did print these out with an inkjet printer, so I left them overnight to dry completely before putting the Mod Podge on the front and the back. Now I've seen with some of these vintage paper ornaments, they use like the tinsel or the silvery kind of pipe cleaner here. I thought it would be really fun to add these. These just came from the Dollar Tree, and I was hesitant at first, but I really like the way that they look. So I'm just going to put a thin row or bead of hot glue and just kind of work in sections so I don't have a lot of hot glue seeping out. I don't want these to look like they were homemade or kind of like, I just want them to look high end and like something you could sell at a craft fair or in like a craft show or something, like a cute little store. I have seen these in some of the stores that I've gone into in my travels, that they sell ornaments like this for a lot of money. So I was kind of going for that vibe here, but I think selling a set of these, if you're into that or that's something you're looking for, would be a great idea and a great addition to your booth. If you're not into selling things or don't want to sell them, they would just be a great addition to your decor or to your tree, or a great gift for somebody who maybe decorates with more of this vintage feel. So again, I'm just lining up the pipe cleaner. They weren't long enough to go around each one time, so I had to add a little bit onto each one. So I would just take a little bit here, you can see, and I will glue that on and then just cut off the excess. So just showing you on these square ornaments, I don't do like a hard corner on them. I kind of do a more rounded corner with the pipe cleaner there. I just use my finger to kind of have it go around that. So that way it has kind of a more natural look to it. So just pointing that out. But I just think these are looking so cute. And I love this, reminds me of an old postcard. And it's so beautiful, and I just love how the little silver flecks of the pipe cleaner just add an extra little sparkle and detail. But I'm going to add a little bit of extra sparkle to these as well. Some of these ornaments that I have seen have had a little bit of glitter added. I'm just doing a little bit of it. This is totally optional. I know glitter's not everybody's thing, but I'm just going like, for instance, on Santa's little trim on his coat and his hat, maybe on his little arm cuff there, and just putting a little bit of Mod Podge. And then I'm just going to pour some glitter over the top of that. Now I'm just using the cheap Walmart glitter that I bought at Walmart. I don't even know what brand it is, but it was just like the only kind of glitter that Walmart had in their craft section. So nothing super special. So you can see it's just a little bit of sparkle to take it to the next level, make it a little bit extra. And some of them don't have a lot of like Santa's trim, for instance. And so I would just pick some random toys to have a little bit of sparkle on, just somewhere where it would naturally look like it would glisten or something. And I just shake that around, as you can see here, and then just tap off the excess glitter. On this one right here, there was a lot of snow. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of add that. You're just going for, you don't want it over the top. You're just going for something to take it to the next level, have it look a little bit more high end than just leaving it plain as it was. It would be fine to leave it that way. However, it's just a matter of personal preference. I just feel like the ornaments like this that I have seen do have a little bit of the glitter and sparkle like this, so I thought it would be fun to add that touch as well. You can see how it's just a little bit, but it really does just make it so much more beautiful. And these images are beautiful, and they would be so fun to do so many different projects with, not just the ornaments. Now I need a way to hang these, and so I'm just using my Crop-A-Dile. You can see here it's like crop, C-R-O-P. I'll leave a link to this down in my description box. I use this for a lot of different crafts. It was very much a game changer. It originally is meant to do grommets with, and I usually use it to punch holes in different things, but I'm going to show you here how you do the grommet. Is it comes with these, and you can buy them also at the craft store, but you just place them on the main like mouth part of this, and when you stick your ornament in, you just want to make sure it's facing the correct way, so the bent part of the grommet will be in the back, and you just push it down, and you can see how that just adds, rather than just having a hole punched in there, it gives such a finished look to it. So I just continue on and do this to all of them, and I go with that kind of brassy, like aged brass color, because I felt like that would really hit home that vintage style. But you can see you just clamp that down, and it creates that beautiful finish on there. I'm just taking some regular twine here, and I'm going to feed that through each of the ornaments. So I just bend it over, and I take the loop and feed it from the front of the ornament to the back. So I will just push that through and grab that. and then you'll just take the excess tails and pull them through. You can see I missed one there, so I'm just going to pull that other one through. And this is such a finished look rather than just tying it off on the ornament. I love that when you do this, it makes the ornament face outward, and so it doesn't like turn to the side on your tree at all, or wherever you're going to place this. And then I just looped it to tie a knot in the top, and I'm just cutting off the tails now. And I just want, you don't want the tails to be too long, but I do kind of just go put my thumbnail and my finger over them to kind of fray them just a little bit. For some reason, I feel like that just gives it a little bit more of a high-end look to it, rather than having it be so crisp and looking like it was just barely cut with the scissors. Like, it gives it kind of a warm feel. I don't know how to explain it, but you can kind of see what it does. So it's just a matter of if you like that or not. Now I'm just doing the same with each of the other ornaments, but what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'll place them on top of one another to make sure that the hanging tassel, or not the tassel, but the twine, that it's all the same length. So that way, if you were to display these somewhere, they're all hanging at a similar level. You don't want one being super short and one being super long. It just gives it more of a clean look. I am just in awe of all 4 of these together displayed like this. I mean, one is absolutely beautiful on its own, but to have a collection like this hanging on your tree, I just think these are going to be so beautiful. Now, as of when I made these, it was October, so I don't have my tree up. So this is the best that I can do to show you with these hanging from a garland here. I'll have to show some pictures of them hanging on my tree once that's all up and decorated. But I just feel like these are such a beautiful addition. I mean, would you love getting these as a gift if someone made them for you? Or would you purchase these at a craft bazaar or something? I just feel like they're beautiful, and what a fun touch to add to your Christmas decor. I love that Dollar Tree carries these Christmas tree cutouts because they're so fun to do different projects with. So I have a few of these in my stash. So I just picked one up, and I'm just going to place this on a little piece of cardboard, and I fill the little hole with some hot glue and scrape that off. So that way it takes care of that. There's not going to be that hole. You're not going to see that anymore. I picked this napkin up. I found these at Home Goods. That's where I get a lot of my napkins because they always have such a good selection. If you have any other tips on places to look for napkins, I do like the Dollar Tree ones. I feel like the Home Good ones are a little bit higher quality, so I feel like they're a little easier to work with, and they tear a lot less than the ones from like Dollar Tree or Dollar General. But you can still find some really cute ones there. But if you have any other suggestions, let me know down in the comments on where to look for fun napkin designs. Now I'm just placing some Mod Podge down on the sign here. That's going to give us a good base to place this napkin down on. And this napkin does the pattern kind of where the napkin folds in half. The Christmas trees kind of change a different angle on there. So you can see on the top half of the tree, it looks like they're upside down on the bottom half of the tree. It's just the way the napkin is. There's no getting around it. So I just decided to embrace it, and we're good to go. I'm just using my hand and my fingers to work from the middle out to spread that napkin down and make sure that it has a firm hold. And then I'm going to go around the edge with a fingernail file here and gently file back that napkin. Now I have this vellum in my scrapbook stash that looks like music, like sheet music, music notes, and I thought it would be really pretty to layer on top of this napkin. So I'm just placing down some more Mod Podge, and honestly, I wish I had done, I kind of go back and forth on this. I wish I had just done some Elmer's glue, like the glue stick on this. I was trying to stick with Mod Podge for this particular design. It does wrinkle this up quite well, and it actually works to my favor. So it kind of depends on the look you're going for. If you want this vellum to lay flat, definitely use a glue stick that like disappears. I love the purple glue, Elmer's glue stick, but it worked fine for what I end up doing with it. So I embraced all of the wrinkles that come with this, and I'm just, you can see, getting a little bit of the scrap paper that was left over to cover the parts of the tree where the paper did not reach. And then I just trim that up with my scissors. Now I'm taking some antiquing wax and I'm going to rub over this. It's going to age it a bit. And this is when I realized that the wrinkles actually are going to be a good thing because I can highlight those. And I'm just taking one of these, this is like an antiquing stamp pad here that I have, and I'm rubbing it over all of those wrinkles, and you can see it's going to highlight all of those. So it's just giving it an extra aged look, which I really did end up liking. Now I have this little snowflake hanging thing there that I got the first snowflake from. It came from Dollar Tree. All of these actually came from Dollar Tree. So I'm just taking some different sizes and shapes of different snowflakes to put on here. A bunch of snowflakes would look really cute if you wanted to do a whole grouping of them instead of what I end up doing. So just keep that in mind. But I stain one with antiquing wax and the other two I decide to paint white. And since it's Christmas time, I thought it would be really fun to add glitter, because at Christmas time I like glitter just a little bit, not a ton, but I thought it would be fun. So I just put some Mod Podge over the top, sprinkled that glitter on. You can see on the little bottom one here, I'm just putting it on, and then I'm just dumping this glitter on. It's just glitter I picked up at Walmart. There's all sorts of different sizes, different colors. I just love the real icy looking type of glitter, just a little shimmer here and there. I don't love it all over my house, but it really is kind of fun to add a little sparkle to some different projects. Now this came in a package of like 10 from Hobby Lobby. It was in the wedding section. It's like a place setting for like a dinner table. And I'm using the back side of it that I stained to make this little sign. And I have these little letters that I bought from somebody who cuts letters, like sells wooden alphabets. So you can, I just found them locally, but you can check like your craft fairs, Etsy, different places that will sell wood cutouts. Ask them if they'll do an alphabet for you, or see if they sell alphabets for you. Pick up something at Dollar Tree, use stickers. There's so many different options. I just happen to have the letters that spelled out Noel, so that's what I'm using here. And I went around the sign to add a little bit of embellishment with a paint marker. Just kind of add a little something. It looked a little plain just to have the Noel on there. So I'm just deciding where I want to place all of these snowflakes and where I want to glue them and where I want the sign. This is where it would be really cute, as I mentioned earlier, to have like several different snowflakes in different, more antique wax and some more of the sparkly ones, maybe non-sparkly ones or silver or gold, and just do a whole array of snowflakes on here rather than having the cute little sign on there. It's just a matter of personal preference. Make it your own. I'm just here to inspire you, so definitely do what you can or what you like. If there's something you don't like, that's totally fine. Just change it to be something that you do like. I felt like it needed a little extra texture of something to break up all of that wood pieces that I had glued there. So I just made a little finger bow out of twine. Just a couple loops was all that took. And I'm just going to tie that down the middle, and I will just glue that right at the corner top of the Noel sign, just with a little teeny bit of hot glue, just to bring that in there. Now, if you had something else you wanted to use instead of a bow, I know I add a lot of bows to things, that would be great too. Now, I thought I'd tie that twine in by on the trunk of the tree, wrapping that around several times very tightly. Kind of breaks up, makes it look like it's maybe tied in burlap or something like that. And along the back, I'm just going to do a strip of hot glue at the top and the bottom, just to lay those pieces down, and that's going to hold that twine in place. In that package of the small snowflakes, there were these gold stars, and I thought it would be darling to add that to the top there. So it does come with a little sticky foam piece there, but you definitely want to add some glue if you want it to be permanent. So just by adding a little bit of glue, I add that to the top, and that just really adds a little extra level of sparkle and something to the top of the tree. And how cute would this be, layered with some really fun Christmas dishes, like on your shelf or your china hutch, something like that. I feel that it's flat. You could add a little something on it to hang it somewhere or put it inside like a wreath on your door, but it's flat enough that you'd be able just to kind of tuck it in somewhere, so it just has that really rustic Christmas feel that it's going to bring into your decor. A couple of years ago, I went to a yard sale that had a bunch of these. I'm assuming they're ornaments since they had a hang tag on them. They're quite large, but I picked a bunch of them up and I've used them here and there to make little signs or ornaments. But I thought it would be really fun to use this napkin. I saw this napkin and it has a beautiful Christmas tree with some packages, but it has a ladder next to it. And it totally reminded me of like the song Deck the Halls. And so I thought it was so cute. And I picked it up so I could do it specifically for these, to do a little ornament out of. Now you can see that one napkin had 3 layers, so you just want to remove those back 2 layers very carefully, but you get 4 images out of 1 napkin. So you could definitely do some fun projects with just 1 napkin, or do multiple ornaments and have that cohesive look all throughout your tree. I just use a paintbrush with some water to go just kind of along the outside of that tree to make an outline, because when you tear that out, as you can see here how I do this, it leaves a more natural edge. And when you're doing this decoupage process with the napkin, it really helps that napkin edge to fade into your background so you don't see that it's a separate piece. And so you can see here, I'm just going to get a little bit of water to go around. I got a little bit of paint on the napkin there, but it was okay. So I just put a little bit of water and ripped that part out there. So that way I have got an even closer shape to the tree, and I go around and just clean up all of the edges there. Now I'm just placing down some Mod Podge. I'm putting a very thin layer of that down here, and then I'm going to place the Christmas tree here. Now I've had a lot of you tell me about using Elmer's glue and water instead of Mod Podge, but I've actually read from a lot of different people that it yellows over time. So I would love to know if you're one of those people who have told me to try that hack. I'm kind of scared to, just because I've heard that it yellows, and over time, especially if you're going to sell items, I don't really want it to get damaged. So if you have noticed yellowing, how long did it take before that happened? Or is there a secret to not have that? So definitely let me know down in the comments, because I've had a lot of you tell me to try that. And so I just wanted to kind of get your feedback on that. But you can see I just go over that napkin with the Mod Podge to make sure that has a nice coating over it to protect that napkin. And I'm just taking my sponge brush here and I'm going around the edge with just a little bit of red paint. I thought that would add kind of a fun farmhouse look to it. Now originally I was just going to put a little Mod Podge down here where the snow would be, and I was going to place a little bit of glitter. I love sparkle at Christmas time, not usually any other time, but at Christmas I love it here and there. And this year I've really embraced it with some of my projects, and I know it's not for everyone, so definitely it's just a step. If you like it, great, go for it. If you don't, you're not going to hurt my feelings that you don't like it. So I put it down. And when I lift this up, I kind of was like, oh, I really like the way that looks in the background. So I end up placing Mod Podge over the entire outline of the tree, all over the white, and placing it on here. Now, I don't know if I made a mistake doing this or not. So you're going to have to let me know if you like it. Maybe the ornament size was a little too big for the design, or I needed to add a little something else on there. I don't know, but definitely let me know down in the comments. And I do just want to say that if you ever, I've had a lot of you say like, hey, I think that you ruined this project doing this, or I don't like how you added that, or I would have done this differently. And honestly, I love that you guys are nice about it, but I love that you guys are thinking like creators, because that's what I'm here to do, is inspire you. And if you see something and you think, ooh, I don't really like how she did that, I would have done it this way, you're thinking like a creator. And I couldn't be happier if that's how you're thinking. That's what I'm here to inspire, is for you to think how you would create. Now here's this ornament. That sparkle is absolutely beautiful when the light dances off of it. This is a photo, so you don't quite get that movement. So you'll have to let me know if you like the glitter on this, if you would have done something different, maybe a border around the outside or something, maybe some greenery on there. I do kind of like the simplicity of it, but it's one of those that I'm not 100% sure I'm in love with it. So what would you do different with this one? Let me know down in the comments. This DIY is so simple but turns out so high end. I'm going to print on tissue paper, and you guys always love when I show this technique. Now I'm just taking a normal piece of tissue paper you buy in the gift wrap section, and I'm taking a normal piece of copy paper, just a regular paper size, and I'm just going to tape the tissue paper over the back. Now there's several different ways. I have lots of different videos of doing this, so we're just going to go with this method that I'm showing in this video, but if you have a different way you do this, definitely, if it works for you, stick with that. Now I was out of Scotch tape the day that I was doing this, or couldn't find it. My girls had probably stolen it because they love to do craft projects with everything that I have. So I could only find painter's tape, which worked fine because it fed through my printer fine. Now you want to make sure that when you feed this through your printer, you're printing on the tissue paper side. So you just want to know the orientation to fit your paper through your printer. I don't have a fancy printer. I just have like an $80 Hewlett-Packard printer from Walmart. It's not a laser printer, it's an inkjet, and it works great for this. Now I did pick this little wood slab here up at Walmart. It's just kind of a sign blank in their craft section. It was a little bit less than Dollar Tree, but it had this annoying staple in the back of it that you have to remove, and definitely sand that down. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your project, which side you want to make, the front and the back, based on where that staple is. Now I just got this design off Etsy, and I just cut it out there and separated the tissue paper from your printer paper. You're just going to throw that printer paper away or use it for something else. You just need the tissue paper part. And then you're going to do a really thin coat of Mod Podge on your sign blank. And you just want to make sure you have good coverage, but you do want it to be thin because you don't want this tissue paper to tear and get like super wet when you put it down. So I center this the best that I can. I eyeball everything, and I just work with my finger, smoothing out to the edges, getting rid of any wrinkles or bumps. If you start to pull your tissue paper up to get any wrinkles out and it starts to tear, just embrace those wrinkles and just move on. It's just going to make your project look more aged and have more character if it has a little bit of wrinkles or tears. So just know that. So just embrace them if that happens to you. If you have a brayer, you can definitely, if your piece feels dry enough, go over the top of it to help smooth it out even more. And then I just sanded the edges to make it have a really crisp, nice edge. Now to age this a little bit, I'm just taking some antiquing wax on a little chip brush, and this is a stencil brush actually from Dollar Tree, I believe, but it just has those natural bristles, and you're just going to dry brush the antiquing wax all the way around your sign here. This just helps the edge of the design of my sign that I had this natural worn look anyway, and so it just helped blend the wood into that sign. I just took some thicker twine that I have and tied a knot in either end of it, and I just used my staple gun to staple that in to make a little hanger for this little sign here. I think this sign turns out absolutely darling. It's so simple and easy, but it really does look high end. Now you can go over the top of this after it's sat for 24 hours with some Mod Podge. You want your ink to dry if you're going to do that, which I do suggest doing. Just do it with some matte Mod Podge, but make sure your ink is dry or it will smear your design. So for this project, I have these two signs from Dollar Tree, and you can use any signs. They have these for every season in different decor. Some of them are a little bit of a different size, so just keep that in mind. I'm using my heat tool and my putty knife just to get the stickers off of the back of it, because I want to use this back side as the front of my sign. So I just gently sand down the stickiness there, and I'm going to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue to get these two pieces glued together, because I need the sign to be a little bit wider than what one of these is, so I'm putting them together to have a larger size sign. So I'm also putting a little bit of super glue on here along that crack between the two, and I'm going to use some craft sticks that I put some hot glue on for that quick hold there, and I'm just putting those on so that way the sign is very stable. It's very sturdy anyway, so I don't know that this would have been necessary, but I really just didn't want it coming apart. And I will cover the back up with some craft paper. Now I'm just taking some like joint compound or like spackling and just putting between the cracks here to make it look like it's one piece of wood. I don't go all the way down to the middle because I have, as you can see, my bag off to the right there. I'm going to be putting that on, so it's going to cover the middle, but it will show at the top edge and the bottom edge, so I just wanted to make sure that it looked like one side. Now you guys, I learned this hack from the Rusted Willow. She is awesome. I'll link her channel down below, so if you want to go visit her, but she keeps her antiquing wax in these little squeeze jars that you get at Dollar Tree, and I thought this is the most brilliant thing, and I just happened to be watching one of her videos and saw this and was like, this is a genius. I'm totally gonna do it. I don't know if she came up with it or what, but I just saw it in one of her videos. But look, you can just go pour that right out onto your piece, and you have control over how much. I'm not having to pour some out and then pour it back in or dip it. I just thought this was such a brilliant hack, and so I just thought I would pass it on and share it because I absolutely loved it, and so far it's working great for me. And you can see like how the precision is that you get on the edge. Now I'm covering this whole thing in the antiquing wax because I want to do a crackle method with it, so you can paint this any color that you want to do your sign. You're just going to match the packaging that you purchased, like the gift wrap that you purchased. Now this is Folk Arts Crackle Medium here. I just picked this up at Hobby Lobby, but I know there are several other brands. I have yet to use any other brands, just this one. It works great, but if you have and trust another product, keep using that. Let me know in the comments if you do have another one that you're like, no, try this one. It's even better, because I love trying new products. Now you put this on, and I put it on pretty liberally, and let it dry. It says on here, I'm finding it here, let it dry for 1 hour. I let mine dry overnight because I did this late at night one time, and I just thought it would set together really, but you just want it dry. So then you come in with your top coat, and you do not want to go over where you have painted. You don't want to disturb the process at all. And I do that at one point here, and it'll kind of show you. Then I kind of mess it up and have to go touch it up. But you just want to get your top coat on here. And I feel like the thicker the paint, the bigger the cracks you're going to have. And so just keep that in mind as you're doing this. And you can kind of see how quickly it takes. I mean, this is just after a couple of minutes. I'm wet distressing the edges so they blend in a little bit there. So I just took a wet paper towel and went down the sides there to create a little bit of detail. Now I'm just going to cut my bag out here, this sign. I love this little Noel sign. All of the pieces that I'm using from this line of gift wrap are all kind of neutral and kind of a woodsy feel, and I really was loving that vibe together. But that's what's so fun is I got these all at Walmart. Go to your department stores or your like Walmart or Target or wherever you buy your gift wrap that's going to sell a whole set with matching tissue paper and like 3 or 4 bags in the set, and see what you can come up with, because it makes such a great, that's what's so fun about this, is you have a whole set of pieces to display together rather than just like a one-off from Dollar Tree. Now I used some water on the edge of this to tear out so it had more of a natural edge rather than a cut edge, where it's not going to fit flush with the sign. It's going to be displayed on the sign so it doesn't go quite to the edges, so you can see that crackle. I thought that would be a little bit more of a rustic look and look a little bit more natural, like it was intentional. And I just used some of my school glue. If you want to do Mod Podge, that would work too, whatever technique you like to use. I don't have the most success with Mod Podge and thicker paper. That could just be a me issue though, so do what you know. Now I just put some hot glue around the edge on the back. This is just some craft paper you just buy in the roll. You can get it at Walmart, Dollar Tree. Christmas time, you can find like the brown paper wrapping, which is a little bit thicker, and I really do like that. So pick some of that up as the holiday season is around the corner, and you'll start to see some of that wrapping in the stores. Now I'm just sanding a little bit around the edge to give a clean edge to this, so that way it looks very nice and precise on the back. And I go over with some Mod Podge to seal the paper, so that way it's going to last for years to come. But look at how beautiful this sign is. I love that it's tall, it's thick. I think that crackle looks so pretty with that Noel on there. I think this is going to look so great with the vignette. What do you guys think of this piece? Is this something that you would try? Are you liking this idea with the gift wrap and doing the decorating pieces with it? I've been hanging on to this little sled that I found at a thrift store, and it's a darling shape, but as you can see, the design was probably very cute at one time, kind of a little folk artish, and it is scrapable. Like, it's coming off, it's flaking pretty good. So I take my paint scraper and I'm just going to scrape it off a little bit just to try and get that design off. So I have to sand just a little bit, not much, but I'm just going to flake that off because I don't want my paint that I put over it to start flaking off. So you definitely want to take care of that if there is any like flaking or anything like that. Now the edge of the sled was actually pretty good, so I just really focused on that design where that was and I'm not sure if that design was painted on there or if it was put on with some different type of method or something, because it was just the design that was flaking off. I removed the raffia, and now I'm just going to paint this in my base color, and I'm just painting the top portion of the sled. I'm going to paint it just this white color. This is a Waverly chalk paint that I'm using, and I just give it a couple of coats is what it takes to get the full coverage that I need. Now the runners on the sled, they were very kind of like a really brassy orangey color of that wood, and I wanted to tone it down. I didn't really want to have to do a lot of sanding because there's a lot of angles to get on it. So I just took some antiquing wax with a brush and just went over completely and then dried it with my heat gun, and it actually gave it a very wonderful tone to it. And I'm just painting that little front portion of the sled there to match. And now for the fun part of embellishing this. I picked these darling Christmas tree napkins up at Home Goods. I got them this year, 2023. So depending on when you're watching that, they're very cute. I was a little disappointed though. I thought this little edge, I didn't realize it was going to be fringy. It's very cute as a napkin, but really that edge is pretty much worthless if you're using it to decoupage with, because sometimes I love the scalloped edge to add along things. So I was kind of a little disappointed with that. But as you can see on one napkin, you get 4 beautiful Christmas tree images to work with. So definitely worth the investment on these napkins. So I just peeled them apart because they'll be in 2 or 3 layers. So you just want to make sure you have the topmost layer. And then using a brush with water, I go around the design and then tear off the edges so you have a natural raw edge to that napkin. So I just place some Mod Podge down on the sled, And now I'm gently going to place the design down. And I'm going to start from the middle and work my way out with my fingers. Now I know a lot of you use a technique where you let the Mod Podge dry and you heat up like an iron or something. That would be this would be something perfect you could do with that. I've never tried this technique, so I just need to get brave and try it. But honestly, this is such a small section that I'm working with that I didn't have any problems with wrinkling or anything. And you can see when I get to that edge and press that down, it really just disappears into that paint color, that white paint. And you really cannot see that, especially once I go over the top like I am now with another layer of Mod Podge, just making sure that you seal that napkin in so that way you're not going to have any water damage, discoloration, or anything happening to that. Now I thought it would be fun to go around the edge with just a little bit of antiquing wax to make a little definition on the edge of the sleigh there. Totally optional. It just kind of depends on the style that you're going for. But you can even sand around the edge, but I really feel like giving it some type of definition on that edge kind of elevates it to another level. Now I'm taking some twine and I'm going to tie this at the top of the sleigh, almost as if that was like what you were holding on to if you were riding the sleigh. But I thought it would be fun to add some rusted bells. Now you can make your own rusted bells, either using vinegar to soak them in or using the Mod Podge and cinnamon technique. These I just picked up at Hobby Lobby in a tube of them. There's probably 20 or so jingle bells in there for just a couple of dollars. So definitely worth the investment if you plan on using them all throughout the season, which I have done. Now I wanted to hang them to be at different angles, and I kind of will set my sleigh up and determine where I want to tie these off at, because I don't want them to be so far apart. I want it to look kind of like a natural lopsidedness. I know that doesn't really make the most sense, but hopefully you can see exactly what I mean here. When I set this up here, I realized that other jingle bell is much lower, so I do untie it and just raise it up a little bit and tie it on again. So when you're working on projects, it's just kind of important to step back or set it up or look at it from a different angle and kind of get a different point of view to see if you want to fix or change anything. I do take my scissors and just snip off that extra little twine where I tied those and just put a little dot of glue on each of them to seal that knot so it's not going to come undone. You don't want a big glob of glue, so just a little bit works, and let that dry and you'll be good to go. Whenever you're creating something, always take a look at it and see if you feel like it needs a little something extra. It's totally a matter of personal preference on if you feel like it does or not. I felt like the top of it was a little bit bland looking, and so I just wrapped some twine around my finger maybe 10 times and just made what you call like a finger bow. You just make the loops and then you tie another piece of twine right in the middle, or ribbon, or whatever you're working with. You tie it off in the middle and it's going to look like it has been tied that way. And then just using a little dot of glue there, I'm going to glue this on, and I have just a couple of little of the twine tails falling down there. Now you could easily add like a button or something on the top of the twine there, would be really cute. As I got looking at it, I had a little bit of extra greenery by me, and so I do end up putting some greenery on here. I'm just spraying those little tassels or the ends with some water in my mister bottle there, and that's just going to help them lay a little bit more flat and not be so like skiwampas hanging all the different ways. So here I'm just going to glue just a little bit of greenery. It's just some little leftover pieces that I had that I just clipped a little bit off of, and I'm just gluing that underneath the bow on each side just to bring a little bit more greenery in there. I thought it looked really lovely to have the green tree on the base of the sled and then have that greenery at the top. Here is this project all completed, and I am really happy with how this came out. I think it's beautiful. It will be a perfect shelf sitter throughout the season on a tiered tray. And this is something that you can do. You find these little sleds everywhere. I mean, at Dollar Tree, they have a little bit smaller ones. Like I said, I found this at a thrift store. I've seen them all over. That they shouldn't be too hard to find, and they're so easy to create and make them to match your decor. What do you guys think of this? Are you a fan of it? I love using napkins to do different decor items with, and I found these at JoAnns. I got them on sale for like 60% off or something, but I loved the edge. Now inside of this pot is just some joint compound that's been watered down, and it's dried for over 24 hours. So I just want to let you know something in the bottom of your pot you're going to want to give it some stability. Now these napkins have the most beautiful edge to them, and so I thought they would be so cute turned upside down on a pot, and I'll show you what I mean by that. These were 3-ply napkins, so I peeled the 2 layers off of the back so that way you're down to just the one surface, the one ply that you're working with. I'm just covering the entire surface with Mod Podge, and then I'll take a brush and smooth that all out so you just have a thin coat of the Mod Podge all over. And then I'm using the base of this napkin as a trim around the edge of the pot here. Now I'm leaving a little bit of an excess on the top so that way I can fold it over and have it go onto the inside of the pot. You're not really going to see on the inside of the pot, but just in case. And I'm taking my time because I don't want these, I want it to be as straight as possible. And when you're lifting it up, if you feel your napkin start to tear, you just kind of want to stop. But these napkins were actually such good quality that I could peel them up and kind of manipulate them, and they worked fine. Now I'm just going to tear off where I want the excess to be removed. Tearing it's going to give it a natural edge and it's going to blend in. You're not even going to see that it was torn. And you can see here how I'm folding that excess over the top of the pot there, and it gives that ring on the pot that consistency all the way around. Now I went and cut off my excess, and I maybe got a little too liberal with how much I cut off, but I'll show you how I fixed that here because I want it to wrap all the way around the bottom of the pot. So now I'm just going around and making sure that the napkin is placed on that Mod Podge that's on the pot. I don't have an excess of Mod Podge or extra Mod Podge on my brush yet. I'll put that on once I get it placed down. Right now I'm just trying to get all of the surface of the napkin touched to the surface of the pot. And here I'll put some on the bottom, and I'm just going to rub this around with my brush here, and then I will start to fold over the edge of the napkin. So you can see I'm just going to fold that over there. And you can kind of see as I do this that there's a little spot left over in the middle. If I would have paid attention to how much I cut off the bottom of the napkin, I probably wouldn't have run into that issue. But it works out fine because luckily we're working with napkins and Mod Podge, so fixes are super simple to do here. Now I'm going to take the Mod Podge and put it all over the pot. This is going to give the protection that you're going to need on the outside of the napkin. So that way it's going to be water resistant. You're not going to have that napkin tear or anything. This is just giving that protective layer and making sure that it is all bonded to the surface. Now you can see I'm just taking a torn piece of napkin and I'm just going to place this down on the base there, and then I'll set it down and just kind of tear off all of the edges around. You don't need to cut this with a scissor because I feel like you get more of an edge that way and it does not look as clean. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but when you tear it, it kind of leaves those little fibers of the napkin. So when you put the Mod Podge on it and place it down, it's going to kind of disappear into itself. And so it really helps it blend in much more with a torn edge than a cut edge. Now, and you can use water to tear the edge. This one, I didn't really need the water because I didn't need to be super precise. So I just tore it drier with the little Mod Podge that it had on it, and it seemed to work just fine. I found this bottle brush tree at Walmart. I loved how it had the different sections on it. So I'm just going to take off. Now you could leave this little wood stem on there if you want. It's going to be hidden in the pot. So I thought, well, I can probably use it for another project or something. Do you guys ever do that? Take pieces off and think, oh, I'll use it. And then it just goes into a stash. I'd love to know if I'm the only one that does that or if you do that. So let me know in the comments. So I'm just taking some scrap styrofoam and gluing that into the bottom of the pot. That's just going to give it the stability there. And then taking some Spanish moss here. I love to buy my Spanish moss at the craft store. I feel like you get a better deal than you do at the Dollar Tree. I know I say that all the time, but it really is such a good value. And I'm just taking whatever amount I feel looks good, and I'll just put some hot glue down on that styrofoam, and that's just what's going to hold that moss in place. When you do place your Spanish moss down, just know that it's got that glue can seep through and burn you. So either wear some finger protectors or just be very careful when you're doing this. I'm tucking the Spanish moss in around the edge so it's not completely haywire and crazy off all of the edges there. Kind of helps it adhere also. So I'm just taking a paintbrush and I'm just going to place a little hole in the middle of that Spanish moss and the styrofoam. So that's where I'm going to stick my tree. Now I'm taking just a teeny bit of Mod Podge, and I probably should have done this before I put the Spanish moss on, but I didn't know I wanted to do it until this point. So I want to put a little bit of glitter around the edge to kind of have a little shimmer where that snow is, not overboard. I know some of you were like, ooh, no with the glitter. And then I have a lot of you who were like, yes, at Christmas time, glitter is totally okay. I've never used it in my Christmas DIYs until this year, but I'm loving it. So it's just a little bit to give it a little bit of a sparkle. Now, once this is completely dried, I'm just wrapping some twine around this. You want to make sure that Mod Podge is dry before you kind of move on to these next steps so you're not tearing up that napkin at all. So I just wrap it around 3 or 4 times and then just tie it off. I don't think I show it, but I do put a dot of hot glue in the back to help hold those up. Since this is at an angle of the pot, the twine can slip down a little bit. So I just put a little bit there. It's hidden underneath the twine. You won't see it, but it'll just make sure those don't slip off there. I made a finger bow just by wrapping some twine around my finger 3 or 4 times and then tied it off in the middle. And I'm just going to tie that on here to kind of add a little bow. Now you don't have to do this embellishment at this point. You could stop at any point or do something totally different. But I have these little rusted jingle bells that came on like a string of them. I've used them in a few of my other projects this year. I'm just going to glue a couple of them on here. And I didn't love the look of just 2. So I decided to get a little bit of greenery that I had and glue that into the sides kind of underneath the bell coming out in front of the bow. You can kind of see it's just the tip of some greenery, extra greenery I had. And I do that on both sides, and then I add a 3rd bell on top. Since sometimes things look better in groups of 3, I feel like that looks much better than just the 2 bells that I had. And I love the little addition of the greenery. I take a bunch of hot glue and place that down into the hole that we made with the end of the paintbrush in the styrofoam and in the Spanish moss. It's just a little bit of a stem that you have to work with here, so I just really want to hold on to that to make sure it's secure and that it's dry and that glue really takes hold. Here's the final product, and I think it is absolutely beautiful. I think this really encompasses that woodland type of feel that is so popular this year, as well as using the bottle brush trees in all of your decor. And I really think this is a piece that you could leave out all season, so even through January, and even with the jingle bells and everything on there, I just think this is so fun and has that rustic farmhouse touch. I would love to know what you guys think of this. Are you a fan of the decoupage napkins on the pots? Because I'm loving doing all sorts of different projects for all different seasons with them. It is not really a secret that a lot of us crafters love to use calendar pages for DIYs. So I'm just taking some calendars that I have in my stash or that I have used. One of them was from last year, one is from this year, and then this one I'm looking at right now is actually next year's that I found in Dollar Tree, and I found them in a few different Dollar Trees all in the last couple of weeks, so start looking for those if you haven't already. On the back of these calendar pages, they have a little teeny square of the different months, so you can kind of get a preview of what pages are in there before you buy the calendar. And a lot of calendars do this, not just Dollar Tree calendars. So you might already have some of these in the stash. Now I'm just showing you that on Dollar Tree, I really wish that that bigger square was a Christmas one that they put there. Every year I look at that and think, dang it, they have some fun ones there, but I just wish they were Christmas ones. I'm just going to be using the December one, and I'm just going to do 3 of these just to kind of give you an idea, because you may not have all 3 of these calendars, but you might have one of them, or just to give you an idea to use for some different calendars that you might have. And these are just some wooden tags I picked up at my craft store, and I have just a sheet of craft paper, and I'm going to use my trusty Elmer's school glue here. I love this purple school glue. I found a bunch of it on sale at Walmart for 25 cents for these big sticks last week. So check your clearance section now that the back to school rush is over and you're starting to see those things really, really marked down. So I just put the glue on the front of all of the wood tags, and then I just put them down with that glue face down on the back part of the scrapbook paper. You can see how I am doing that here. I do my best to line it up to the straight edge of the paper. Since it is a plaid that I'm working with and there are straight lines and straight angles, you want to make sure you get it as straight as possible so it's not totally crooked on your tag. And then I'm just going to cut each of these out, cutting very close to the edge of the wooden tag, but I am going to be sanding them so it doesn't need to be exact. Now these are just rectangle tags, and traditional tag shape like a package tag would be darling as well. So use what you have. Even a circular shape would work for this. Anything that you've got. You could even use some cardboard to do this with if you would like to. If you don't have wood, cut some squares or rectangles out of cardboard and you're good to go. Now I'm just using my emery board to gently file down the scrapbook edge there to give it a nice clean look. I then use my Elmer school glue to place down each of the squares on the tag. Now I don't want them completely centered from top to bottom. From side to side I do, and I am measuring them compared to the other one that I made so I can get them as centered as possible in comparison to each other. I want to leave a little bit of a bigger space at the top because I'm going to go in with some greenery and I'm going to embellish it, so I want you to still be able to see that design. So you can see kind of how I place those here. I kind of use just a measure of like one square, like one row of squares and a half from the bottom up, and that left you about 2 and a little bit more of full rows at the top that you can cover up with embellishment. Now the raw edge I didn't love with how it was looking. So I just took some paint and I painted around the edge of my first one. This was a painstaking process. I did not love this right here, and I thought there's got to be an easier way, and then it occurred to me I have a black ink pad. So if you want to paint around the edge because you don't have a black ink pad, go for it. Use like a sponge tool instead. But if you have a black ink pad, I picked this up. It was $1.99. I think and I've seen them at Dollar Tree too, but this one came from just my local craft store. And it's so easy to just place that around the edge, just kind of stamp your wood into the side of the wood, into the ink pad, rub it, whatever you need to do to fill in any gaps. And it takes seconds compared to it took me like 5 minutes to do the outer portion of the first tag. Now I'm just taking a wet wipe here and I'm going around the edge. This is going to bring some of that ink over onto the top. You can see those ones on the right hand side compared to the one I'm doing now, how it brings that black ink over the edge and gives it a really nice finish. I decided that the back needed something too, so you could do this before you did the edge of the paper. It was just something that I went, well, now I've done the edge, the back needs to look a little nice too, because sometimes you see through a Christmas tree and you can see the back of an ornament and you want it to look nice too. This fun tool is called a Cropodile, C-R-O-P, Cropodile, and it was the most game-changing tool to my crafting career. I am not even kidding. Christmas is coming. It might be a fun thing to ask Santa for. I'll have a link for it down in my description box, but it can cut holes through metal and wood, thinner pieces of it, but it still works really well. Now I'm taking my twine and I folded it in half and I'm sticking the folded part through from the front to the back, and then I pull those little pieces, little tails through there to make a nice little loop. So I'll show you again what I do here. So I just get a longer piece of twine because I'm not exactly sure how long I want my tails so far. I fold it in half and you can see where that fold is there that I have. I'm just going to feed that from the front of my design to the back, and then it creates a loop, and I'm just going to pull those tails through. This is just going to make sure that when you hang your ornament, it's not going to go to the side. If you just put one piece through and tied it off, sometimes it doesn't hang correctly. I love this method because it really does give you that nice professional touch. And then I'm just going to loop the ends to tie them off there, and I just compare them to each other to make sure that the tassels are as long on each, like that it's equal length. And you can see here, I just do the exact same thing, and then I just kind of wrap it around my finger to tie a knot, and then I'm just cutting off the little tails for however long I want them to be. Now I thought it would be really fun to add some greenery to these, give them a little something extra. They're fine the way they are, so if you want to stop right there, go ahead and do that. But I'm just using a little bit of hot glue. These are just some little scraps that I have. Whenever I use picks and things or trim things down, I just have a little Ziploc baggie of little pieces, and I kind of keep them like in season. So all of my Christmas pieces are in a bag, all of my fall pieces are in a bag. So when I'm doing a little project like this, I'll just pull them out, because inevitably you might want like a berry here or there, or a little piece of greenery or a little sparkle. So that's where all of this is coming from. I do have some of this pipberry that I got from Dollar Tree, and I just feed that through. The way that we tied that little tassel on there, the twine, you can loosen it, and I just slipped that piece of pipberry underneath it. And then I'm just taking a pencil and I'll wrap it right around this to give it a nice corkscrew shape. You can even just have just a little piece. You don't have to corkscrew it, but I just thought that adds just a little bit more texture and whimsy and a little bit more visual interest to it. I then just make a finger bow, and I'll show you how I do that in just a moment, but this is just some red and green jute twine. You can see that package there. I picked this up at Walmart, and I love that you get the red and the green because it's something that you don't see all the time, and it's a very thin twine, perfect for little projects like this. And I just make that bow and I glue it on. So I'll show you here how, in just a second, how I actually made the finger bow in case you've never made one of those. But I'm loving how these turn out. I just think they're so cute. They would be a perfect project if you had a craft fair that you were trying to make some things for, if you had a lot of those little calendar squares, or you could even just go onto like the Graphics Fairy website. If you've never been to her website, it's amazing. She has a ton of free graphics to print out. Print out something if you don't have a lot of calendar pages. Use something that you have. Even some scrapbook papers might have some little pieces to cut out that you can use. So use your imagination, be resourceful, and you can make these for literally next to nothing. You just have to have, like I said, you can even make them out of cardboard. So just use your imagination. So you can see I'm just wrapping that twine around my finger about 4 times, and then I just pinch it in the middle. And it makes the most darling little loops on either side to make a cute little bow. And then I just want to tie it off in the middle. So I'm just grabbing another little piece of the red. You don't have to do the red and the green. Don't add too many strings because it's going to get too muddled up there for you. At least for me it does. I always seem to get things tangled up. So I just cut a piece of the red and I'm wrapping that around 2 or 3 times just to kind of tie that off. And then you just tie it into a knot on the back, and that's going to secure your loop right in the middle, making it look like you have the most darling tied bow there. You guys, I know I say the word darling a lot, but it's just one of those words in my vocabulary I say a lot. So just know that that's just who I am. But anyway, this bow ends up really beautiful and it's really cute. And you just kind of, depending on how many loops you did, you just fan it out. And I love that the red and the green together there really tie all of those colors in. They match really well with that black and white plaid paper. Now you can see how I did these two. I do the same thing, the exact same thing on that third one as well. I love that I did these in a collection. I feel like over your tree, if you have a few ornaments that match, I really feel that brings your look together rather than just having a one-off here and there, which is okay with some ornaments, but it really is fun to have a collection. I think these 3 look beautiful. Definitely getting those farmhouse feels and vibes from these, and you can see they really do look high-end. I think that they would be a beautiful addition to anyone's tree. You're going to have to let me know what you think of these. Do you like the idea of using the back of the calendar pages, or would you be someone who wants to go find your own graphics and make them a little more custom? Let me know down in the comments. This is just a hot chocolate container that I had. We love hot chocolate at our house in the wintertime. And so this is just, I think, like the Stevens brand hot chocolate container. So that's the size if you're wanting reference. I believe like Swiss Miss and Nestle, like they all probably come in about the same size. So, but any type of canister that you have would easily work for this. I'm just letting you know in case you want to know on size reference. But I started to paint it white, which you could easily do if you don't have this little removable wallpaper from Dollar Tree. So just keep that in mind that after I painted it white, I remembered that I had this paper and I thought it would be a really cute background on here. So whatever you have, go ahead and do that, what's going to be easiest for you. But this wallpaper fit around perfectly. And this is something new that Dollar Tree's been carrying. I've seen a few DIYers grab some, and I thought it was perfect for this project. And it fits like a glove around this canister. It just meets right up on the other side, and it was the perfect fit. So I thought that would be such a cute little backdrop. For the design that I'm going to put on here, I'm going to take off of one of the farmhouse calendars from Dollar Tree, the December page, which has this Farm Fresh Christmas trees graphic on here, which is absolutely darling, but I need to make it fit because it kind of would fit if I just put it on, but it was a little bulky. So I'm going to kind of trim it down a little bit. So I'm just kind of going around and seeing as far as for reference, like how I would like the trees to fit, where I want them to sit. I didn't know at this point if I just wanted just the trees on there, if I wanted just the Christmas tree part, how I wanted it to be. But after I kind of played around with it for a minute, I kind of decided I could fit it all on there and I knew kind of how to do it. I just needed to trim everything down. So that's what I'm going to do next. So just trimming in and out of the branches here, I do kind of like what you would consider, I guess, a bubble cut. So it's not super exact, but it is fairly close to the edges of the tree. And I don't do each individual tree. As you can see here, I kind of go down maybe a third of the way on the next tree and then go up. Because the background on the calendar pretty much matches the background of the wallpaper that I'm using, it's not going to be super noticeable. I don't even think with white paint it would be super noticeable. So you can see I've got the Farm Fresh cut out there, and I'm going to have those trees kind of go up and overlap that there. And then I just cut out the Christmas part here as well as the trees. And on this Christmas, it is very delicate. So I did just kind of go around. And honestly, guys, I've had several people comment to me that I should use some more detail scissors, and I did try. I just feel more comfortable using my big scissors. I guess the moral of the story is just use what scissors work best for you, and I'll do the same. Anyhow, I'm just using my good old purple school glue stick here to get these to adhere to the back. So I just put that on the back of each of my pieces that I had cut out, and then I just go through and place them of what I decide looks the best and how I kind of had designed it out in my head. After I get all of the pieces glued down, I do just kind of touch up around that silver edge there with a little bit of chalk paint. And then I do go over the design just to kind of make it blend into the wood like it was all like one cohesive piece, if that makes sense. And then this is just a wood round. I bought this at a yard sale. I bought a big bag of these, but you easily can get these. I've seen them at Dollar Tree, but I don't know if they have the 5-inch size. But Hobby Lobby, you can get them, JoAnns, Michael's, anywhere. And then I am just beating the heck out of this with my long nose pliers. You've seen me distress wood on here before. I just really take all your aggression out on it, and I kind of just really rough up those edges and everything like that, and you'll see exactly what happens when I add the stain to this wood. So this is just antiquing wax that I'm using. I do use Waverly's antiquing wax, but any kind that you use would easily work. Even stain would, like if you wanted to use a traditional stain, would work. But I just give it a really good coat, and then I'm taking a baby wipe. And then when you wipe that away, it just looks like an old piece of wood that has been sitting around forever, that's just aged. And I personally love the way that it looks. So again, if it's not your style, then just skip that step. And then I just take one of these finials that I bought in a pack at Hobby Lobby for a couple of dollars. It came with like 5 or 6. I just glue that to the top. And there's the canister. So cute. But you could also use it to put some of your holiday picks in there or something like that. I just think this looks super cute. What do you guys think of this one? I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's compilation video. I hope that you enjoyed all of these DIYs. If you had a favorite, let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear which ones you guys like the best. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.